What's up, everyone? This is the United Talk, and a very warm welcome to all of you on this show today. We'll be talking about the transfer news regarding Manchester United, of course, but we'll also be talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and what does the future hold for him. But to begin everything, Jadon Sancho. We know for a fact that United are desperately interested in Jadon Sancho. We also know that Chelsea are running in the close number two. What happens to Sancho? Because there have been some publications who have now put out a story which says that Sancho's representatives have actually agreed a deal with United with respect to his weekly wages, which is, I mean, it's a rubbish news. It's a news which has been put out simply to fill up the columns, the reason I'm so sure about it is because you analyze this from everyone's perspective. Now, if you think about it from what's happening in the world right now, unfortunately, there's no certainty when the Premier League will start. There's no certainty what happens to Champions League and Europa League. There's no certainty what kind of condition, financial condition, will Borussia Dortmund be in the summer. And while I personally believe that they will be still selling Jadon Sancho because they will have some kind of a financial hit and they will need to sell Sancho as well, and they've been backing themselves to do it, they've been bracing themselves to do it anyway. But what if United doesn't get Champions League football? What if Chelsea do get Champions League football and Sancho ends up going to Chelsea? Because we do know that Chelsea are also interested in him. Chelsea can pay up the money for Sancho, and Sancho will equally enjoy his time at Chelsea as well. And to top that, we don't know what happens to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which is interesting to analyze now, because while I am among the many of us who are actually wanting Solskjaer to stay for a longer period, who actually believe in Solskjaer and the work that he's done with Manchester United for the past 1.5 years. But like I said, when football restarts, when we play those nine remaining games, when we play those, or if we play those nine remaining games and the Europa League, we don't know where we end up in the table, because if the league right now is just called off, we are not qualifying for Champions League. To top that, we don't know what happens to Manchester City, because in terms of their own restrictions to the Champions League. So there are so many ifs and buts, there are so many questions, that there's no way Sancho will make a decision on his future right now. Add to that, Ousmane Dembele has been linked with Manchester United. Now, it's no surprise, because I know there will be new names every week, and that's been happening since past 10 years now. But Ousmane Dembele to Manchester United, for me, I don't think United are interested. But if they are, please don't. He's 22. He has the potential to be world class, but his bones, his muscles are weaker than my grandmother's, and my grandmother is 80 years old. And I say this because look at the injury record of that guy. He is injured more times than he's actually playing on the field. He's injured 70% of the time on the season in the season. So I mean, and to top that, he's actually a flop at Barcelona. And to top that, because Messi sometimes plays from the right hand side, Suarez from the middle, he ends up playing from the left. I know he's a right winger, but I don't want to buy any player who has a very bad injury record, who is actually a flop at a big club right now, who's young but who will demand a high transfer fee anyway. And to top that, he might prefer to play on the left hand side. No, we need an out and out right winger. We have too many players who can actually play on that left hand side. We have Daniel James actually, who's been playing on the right hand side, who is actually better suited to play on the left hand side. We are very left flank heavy. We need an out and out right winger. There is no doubt about it. Ousmane Dembele to Manchester United, a 0 out of 10 for me. A 0. 0 brings me to Harry Kane, and there will be a couple of zeros in the millions that United need to spend, or will need to spend, if they want to actually acquire Harry Kane. It's not going to be 100 million. Even in, I mean, Tottenham want 200 million minimum for Kane. Even in today's situation, that price is not going to go down significantly. I still feel that if somebody has to buy Kane from Tottenham this season or this summer, it will be in the region of 150 to 170 million minimum. Simply because it's Daniel Levy, he's the best player at Tottenham, and he is one of the best two number nines in the world right now. It's Lewandowski and Harry Kane, and maybe even Suarez if you talk about the top three number nines in the world right now. For me personally, but I mean, if you look at that kind of a player, who's going to be 27 in July, paying 150 million for him, who's also actually injury prone, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's just not United. I feel he will not leave Tottenham this summer because there'll be no club who will want to pay 150 million or plus that amount of money for any for one player simply because of this coronavirus pandemic and the financial hit that the clubs will be taking throughout the world. So if a club can afford Harry Kane, it is United, but I don't think they need to go for Harry Kane because also when you get Harry Kane or when you get Timo Werner, what happens to Anthony Martial? You've been giving him number 9 t-shirt for what? Solskjaer has been promoting him to play as a striker for what? Doesn't make any sense, right? Which then brings me to again a 0 out of 10, which is Yassin Ben Yedder. Now a lot of United fans have actually liked the linking of Ben Yedder to Manchester United, which again surprises me because now this player actually fits in the mold of the kind of player that Solskjaer wants. The only difference is he's not young, he's 30 years old now, playing in Monaco. Monaco might be ready to sell him, and I think they will be ready to sell him for a decent amount of price, like. But a 30-year-old player who's actually short in height, he's very fast, but he's actually short. I mean, we already have players who are very fast, so we are very good on counter attacks. But what happens when you need a plan B? And that's where a striker like Ighalo comes into the picture. And the reason I've been pushing for Ighalo is because, of course, he's been a success for whatever number of games that he's played. And it's too early to judge him for sure. But if you get someone like an Ighalo, you have plan B. You have someone who can be a target man. You have someone who can actually hold the ball. Ben Yedder is the smaller Marcus Rashford, smaller and older Marcus Rashford, who I'm not comparing the two, but he's just fast and he's a good striker. Yeah, fine, but then why? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Again, a 0 out of 10 for me. Now let's talk about Jack Grealish, another player which has been linked with Manchester United. We all know that United's hierarchy actually like Grealish. One of the transfers that can happen, I would again. So for me, Sancho, if Sancho is 7 out of 10 to come to United this season, or next season rather, Grealish for me is 6 out of 10. And I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I'll be honest with you, a couple of weeks ago, I thought Grealish to United was actually 7 out of 10. But now, situation has changed because we don't know what happens to Paul Pogba. If Paul Pogba stays, I would personally still want United to actually go and buy Grealish. But I don't think that's going to happen if Pogba stays. So if Pogba stays, we get Sancho, we get the striker situation sorted, and then we are actually okay. We can actually think about that second or the third spot challenging. I don't think we are strong enough to challenge Liverpool yet, but then we would be challenging City at least. I mean, I personally feel that. But if Pogba goes, how early does Pogba go in the window? Madrid are smart when it comes to doing business. Juventus are actually smarter. What if they actually end up waiting till the last week of the transfer market to go to come actually and offer some kind of money for Paul Pogba, and it could be just 50, 60, 70 million to for all you know, because he has 1 year left on this contract and then plus 1 year extension. Obviously, I mean, if he doesn't want to stay at United, there's no point keeping him. Mino Raiola he's an SOB, so I mean everybody knows that. But if United don't solve this Pogba situation quickly in the window, and if their stand is to actually buy Grealish as a replacement for Pogba, then that's a soup. It's a soup because Pogba goes in the last week of the transfer market, and then by that time, will Newcastle come in for Jack Grealish? Will Everton come in for Jack Grealish? Will Tottenham come in for Jack Grealish? I'm sure Tottenham will want to buy Jack Grealish. So for me, United need to solve this situation pretty quickly. I know we can also go for James Maddison, but again, with the Champions League situation and everything, James Maddison probably will be playing in the Champions League next season, whether it's in Leicester or any other team. And for United to actually go to Leicester to buy another player when they've paid 80 million for Harry Maguire last season, I think Leicester will value him at around 70, 80 million again. And that's just, I mean, you can get a Grealish at about 50 million pounds, and then you get a Maddison for about 80 million pounds. That for me again doesn't make any sense because you have to control the finances somewhere. And United will not be throwing money, because that's what I've realized in the past 1 year now. They had been throwing money at players before. I don't think they're going to do that anymore. I personally feel that even if Sancho deal becomes too expensive at a point, if Dortmund want at least 120 million for Sancho, United are not ready to pay more than 100. I can see United walking away from that deal. I can actually see that happening. So you never know what happens with these transfers. But yes, Sancho 7 out of 10, Grealish 6, 6.5 out of 10, depending upon Pogba situation. But if you think about it, a replacement for a striker should be Igalo, could be Igalo. Jadon Sancho on the right, Paul Pogba, Jack Grealish, or maybe both. And it's a good window. It's an excellent window. Even if we keep Pogba, keep Igalo, sign Sancho, it's an excellent window. I mean, it's a team on paper that can actually challenge Man City. I would still not feel it can challenge Liverpool, but it can at least challenge for that second spot in the table. So what happens? What happens to all these discussions if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't remain Manchester United manager in the next season? I mean, again, it's a twist, it's a plot, and right now I have a very strong feeling. And personally, I would want Solskjaer to be there. I'm actually a fan of Solskjaer's work as well. I know he's naive. I know he's done some mistakes, and I have come on this show and criticized him for his mistakes, and there's no doubt about it. But I actually support the manager because I feel that it's a bigger job to rebuild this Manchester United team, this club, than actually what people realize or what people think. And United fans need to be patient about this. Solskjaer, the things that he's done, look at the players that he's acquired in the market. Harry Maguire has been a success. The biggest success has been Van Bissaka, that Spider-Man Bissaka. You look at Daniel James, 15 million. What? It's peanuts for a person like Daniel James who's actually done so well in the Premier League or in other competitions as well for United. I mean, coming from a championship, I mean you can understand how well that guy has played. Seeing that he was not thinking about playing so much. And then you look at some other transfers that he's done. Ighalo, success. Bruno Fernandes, don't even get me started on Bruno Fernandes. So the signings that Solskjaer has made are actually, they have turned the corner slightly for Manchester United. He's a young and naive manager, there is no doubt about it, but I think he is going to learn. He is going to be a success at United. He's also helped in clearing the deadwood at United. So he's doing the right things. He is doing more right than wrong, and that's the reason why I feel that we need to stick with him. We need to stick to him. Otherwise, if Solskjaer goes out of the door right now, if a new manager comes in, what happens to Sancho? What happens to Pogba? What happens to Daniel James? What happens to Martial playing as a striker? I mean, Solskjaer might see Martial as a striker. Somebody else might not. Mourinho never saw Martial as a very good player. Also, look at the development of Luke Shaw under Solskjaer. Look at the number of academy graduates that have come through in the past 1 year or so. Did that happen under Mourinho? Apart from Scott McTominay, not really. So I mean, it's difficult to analyze everything right now, and there's a lot of ifs and buts right now. But I strongly feel that if Solskjaer ends up staying, and if we get Champions League football, Sancho, we will get Sancho. If we manage to keep hold of Pogba, and then manage to keep hold of Ighalo as well, I think we've done a fantastic job as a club, turning the club around to this extent in about 1.5 years. Let me know what do you think about this, guys. Let me know if you would want Pogba to stay or not. What do you think about the Sancho situation? What do you think about the striker situation? If you would actually want Yacine Ben Yedder to come to Manchester United, or even Harry Kane for that matter. Does it make sense according to you? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon as well so that you don't miss a single video from this show.